All right, welcome back. And of course, our guest is on Zoom. And let's welcome Mr. Bradon Roberts. He is Tutor Tobago officer. And good morning and welcome, sir.
Good morning, Barabi. Again, good morning to the viewers and listeners.
Very good. I was just talking to the vice president of the, yes, he's vice president of the Tobago PTA, Mr. Joseph Lindo, and he was telling me that there are no printers for children to receive their packages. The last time, some time ago, we spoke about lack of printers in the schools. Talk to us from, let's start there, and then we'll get deeper into the date change and all of that.
All right. Well, I'm not certain to what extent it still exists. I know it exists in some of the schools. Based on the reports we've been getting in the meetings we have been having with the division, and some of the feedback I would have been getting from some principals, they would have done some work to get some photocopiers out and some printers out. But the fact is that the division have been behind the ball for some time now. So as they try to rectify, then they will have the added use to those same devices that they don't have a maintenance system towards. So sometimes they would either repair a photocopier, but then the workload on that one photocopier, it lasts a certain period of time. Some of the challenges they have with the photocopier, some of the parts, the photocopiers are so old that the parts are hard to get. So this is unfortunate that the pandemic showing out these things, but these are things that the union been raising for, I would say, years, because even going to meetings as chairman before becoming Tobago officer, we would have been raising this particular issue. However, I always speak to funding, and then the division, the whole politics of it, they need to be able to argue for more money. I mean, is rationing of funds while these things are not being treated with in a timely manner.
Very good. All right. So printers as an issue, why children are not getting their packages. Some, according to Mr. Lindo, some parents have to resort to their own printers and that sort of thing. All right, let's talk about the lack of devices / connectivity for children to have their online classes. Based on what he's saying, there are a number of children in the country, in the east of Tobago, that are having problems with connectivity, even though they have the devices. Let's speak to that. What is the information that you got, and what is Tutor doing to address these issues?
But before I go to the connectivity, I do not want to solely blame the availability of printers in the schools, because at this time, Tutor is no longer advocating for that package system, considering what is happening in our climate. Unfortunately, our leaders have just been hoping that things get better in terms of the pandemic and not looking for alternate solutions towards the delivery of education and how we do exams. So it's not just to put it back and hope things get better. It's time that we look to treat it with alternative means of reaching our students, filling the gap in terms of the devices and the connectivity. So I now go to the connectivity issue, and I would have been here probably since last year, talking about how we interact with the internet providers. They always say, as I would have seen in the news, where they say they would send somebody to update it. And because of the competitive nature that these two main providers have, they would say that they would have optimized, which is not being experienced.
All right.
When we go to the division meetings, they would say they would have had talks with Digicel, would have talks with B-Mobile, but it's more promise than anything actually being done. Several spaces, I'm hearing about the east side, but north side as well, Palativale and some area, they have challenges there with the connectivity. You may have connectivity, but the sustainability of it's a bit challenging.
And what has, so have they been trying to address those areas? Maybe it's a technical issue, maybe it's a location issue, maybe it's a device that needs to pick up a satellite. What have they been saying? Are they working on it, or is there any real intent to rectify those areas that have challenges with connectivity?
So I like the way in which you phrase the question, the real intent, because we've been getting feedback that they're working on it, but that's all we get, that verbal, that they're working on it, but it is not being felt to the extent that it needs to. There are some schools who would have communicated that work would have been done at the schools to upgrade what the capacity is. However, it is not enough to make a significant impact where we could see, well, the connectivity problem is not as it was before, so that we can really put the effort into the delivery and so on. A lot of teachers are becoming frustrated after you plan so much into your lesson, because it takes a lot to do virtual teaching. After you plan so much and then you have students dropping out, you have to find a way how to reach a child that dropped off. You yourself as a teacher, as the host, might be bumped off your own meeting. So they need more action than the words that we are hearing.
All right, let's just examine a home that has no connectivity, no packages. The child would have passed last year's SEA, and you start shaking your head because you know where I'm going with this. And that's the reality, that they have not been getting lessons at all, except for whatever revision that could be done at home. Maybe the parent is not as, academically inclined to assist the child, and they are marooned in maybe the rural part of Tobago and that sort of thing. Has there been cases like that, and sometimes in the very present, in the popular spaces as well? And how many are they, and how can they be helped, and what is tutor doing to assist them, if any?
All right. What I would say, based on the feedback I'm getting, it is in the minority in terms of persons who do not have access to the device. I know that the division would have put some effort towards ensuring that the primary school would have been treated with. The exam classes in the secondary school would have been treated with. However, it's the middle levels, the form 2 to 3, where they may be a lag in the majority. Connectivity and reaching out to those students, it would have been a challenge since the pandemic started. I am not certain that enough is being done, as I would have alluded to earlier. We are just, in the main part, from the experience and the discussions we have at the head table, is that we're just hoping that things get better in terms of the numbers. However, we're not getting the leeway in terms of that conversation as to the alternate means. Even if we listen to what the Prime Minister would have said, persons asking for alternate means, but then the solution. Okay. There are persons who are protecting the turf. So that's why it's difficult to really alter the education system to reach these students.
All right, I heard you use alternative for about 4 times in your conversation. It means, therefore, there is that thinking. What are the alternatives? What are the alternatives for those students who don't have connectivity, who don't have packages? When you say alternative, what do you mean?
All right, so currently the system is not reaching all. So we can't just sit back and force this one system that is not reaching all. We have to do something in the meantime.
And what is it? What is tutor thinking? What is it, from your vision? What do you see workable going forward?
All right, so there are a lot of persons talking about the burnout. We can either restructure how the term runs. In terms of the home, I would have been advising parents who have a particular struggle. Keep the child reading. A child that can read will be able to catch up in whatever other area. It will be very difficult to help a child in mathematics, science, whatever subject area, if there's a struggle within the reading area. Okay. So for me, the main thing for parents at this time, you're having problems with the connectivity and whatever, have the child read every day. Make sure that literacy is up so that they'll be able to catch up when that time comes. However, in terms of the system, the leaders, the supervisory department and so on, we need to think of ways in terms of restructuring how the term runs. Because actually, since the pandemic started, we just been trying to force face-to-face into this virtual delivery, which is frustrating a lot of persons. Teachers, parents, and students would have been accustomed to a particular standard. And I feel really sorry for these teachers who, yes, they have a standard, and this virtual setting is not meeting that standard. So it is stress and frustration. They're frustrating themselves. The parents are coming on them because they're not getting that standard that they are accustomed to. But we are in a new normal, and we haven't embraced it as yet.
So we're still struggling to embrace this reality that we're in. All right, let's go to the dates for examination. Obviously, the SEA has been pushed back to July 1st. Yes? No, July 1st, yes? And I'm thinking July 4th because that's the end of the, supposed to be the restrictions and so on. But let's go to from the 10th of June to the 1st of July for SEA. Are you comfortable that that's a reasonable time span, or are you fearful that we may have to go back up even further?
All right, so I try not to live in fear and to be as optimistic as possible. Yes. However, it is a temporary relief. I don't say it's satisfactory or it's something to celebrate. It's just pushing back the concern a little further and hoping, as I said before, hoping that things get better. What is the conversation if things don't get better? We had this predicament last year. We did nothing about it in terms of discussions. As I said before, as we discuss the various aspects of change, there are persons and groups who want to protect what they currently enjoy. So we have not been able to advance the conversation in terms of alternate means. So pushing back the dates is just putting back the problem, and we're hoping that the problem is not as bad. What are we doing to change things? And we really need change. We're not willing in most areas.
All right, let's go back to last year's examination, right? And when we watched what was done, it worked. There was no cases of anybody getting the virus, and we all were happy. The children got their results and so on. Let's look at that model, which worked well last year. We were more or less in the cases weren't as high, or the numbers of COVID and so on. It wasn't as high. But however, do you see that working now? That same, having this separate, children wash their hands, wear their masks. Do you see that working in this time?
But I would disagree about it being a success last time. I would say we were fortunate that we didn't get the extra cases. But at the time, back then, the cases were not that significant to have the high level of concern that we do have now.
Right.
The challenge with the students, especially this group, who did not get any period of this school year, to interact with any of their peers in the physical. When we have these students come out now, as persons would say, children are going out with their parents, but when a parent has his or her child, the control is different than you have hundreds of students, or let's say 50, 60 students within a school. We cannot guarantee that the few teachers there would be able to properly monitor these students. We will be grateful should, after the exam, we're not as lucky as we were last year. What would be the conversation then? So I do not want to base a decision on what happened last year, because we had the shutting down of schools when we were preparing for the exam. Luckily, on the exam day, we didn't see a result similar. So I do not want to base what happened the exam day itself last year to what is to happen for this time around. We were lucky then. Things are not so fortunate now in terms of the numbers. It's a comparison I don't want to make.
Very good. All right, let's deal with CAPE and CXC. The examination.
They would have pushed back the dates. I believe it would have been 3 or so weeks. However, it's a similar situation to the SCA. Most of the secondary school persons believe that they are not being adequately represented by both by ministry, and even some would say that tutors are not representing them as much as. Just as the minister would have put out, CXC is more of a regional body, and where nationally we have control over the STA, we do not have the same control in that regional space. However, what I would say is tutor, along with CUT, that is Caribbean Union of Teachers, been advocating for the safety of our students and our teachers during this period. Just as with the SCA, we have a set system, and we're just trying to force it along through the pandemic, where we are not able to have that level of conversation to have change. And would I be throughout this interview, it has to do with changing what we have right now. It's not about trying to force it and just tick a box and glad that we got it over with. We have to find a way to get the numbers down. And with all of this happening in education, only leads towards bringing people out.
All right, let me go to finding a way. The only way that they have found to battle this evil is a vaccination. Give me tutors' position on encouraging their teachers to be vaccinated, or are you getting resistance? Is there some hesitation? Tell us about the rollout for teachers. Obviously, are they considered frontline? No, I'm not sure. You would tell me, and give me your perspective on the rollout of the vaccine for teachers.
Right, so the Minister of Health and both the Minister of Education would have arranged for teachers to be considered in the second phase, which we are currently in. In terms of encouraging teachers, well, as you would have said before, the way out based on our conduct. It won't happen with the distancing. So it has to do with vaccination. So all those persons who are willing, we are clamoring that the vaccine should be available for all those who are willing. Those who are unwilling, it's because they are not convinced that it is safe. So what we need to do is ramp up that outreach to build that level of confidence. We do not believe in forcing persons, but it's to build their confidence. So we will try to learn as much as we have been trying. We have been speaking to teachers, making information available to them as well as to the pros and cons to the vaccination. But we do hope that all persons who are willing are able to get the vaccination as soon as possible. And then those who are not so willing, we will work on building that confidence to so have them ready to be vaccinated.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right. So anything, we are just about getting ready to wrap, Mr. Robertson. Clearly, you touched on most of all that needs to be covered. And of course, I would hope that, the teachers, would respond to getting the vaccination that they need to come back to some level of normalcy. All right. So anything else you would like to touch on to your teachers, or maybe appeal to parents who have no connectivity, no device, no way but to encourage them? I like when you said have the children read and so on. But in closing, what would you like to say to parents and teachers?
Well, to parents, teachers, ministry officials, division officials alike, no, it is challenging times, and I am not getting the feedback which suggests that we are managing the emotional side of it. A lot of the teachers, as I would have said before, they have the added stress because their expectations have to be adjusted, and that is easier said than done. We have the same situation with the parents with the expectations and what is happening. So we have this pulling and tugging and even among staff, where we have principals and teachers. I'm involved in a lot of mediation where the emotional part of it is not being managed well. And it's all around. It's from the top, from supervisors come all the way down to parents. We need to understand that, yes, now it's challenging times. We need to work with each other and not look for someone to pass our blame. So we have the frustration element, and then we look for someone to throw that on. We need to sit together, work together. We have some challenges. Let's see how we can get over them. And again, I would just want to reiterate the point of the reading. We need to encourage persons to read, look for even positive quotes to read, because better be for me as a union official who will be taking these calls where persons are expressing their stress. I also need to ensure that I'm in a positive place. So I do take some time to read a little positive quotes to keep my mind in a positive frame, so that I could be proactive and productive throughout my day. And I want to encourage all persons to do the same, especially our teachers. Keep your mind in a positive space as you brace for the delivery of each day.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Bradon Roberts, and of course, tutor Tobago officer. Thank you very much. And of course, he's encouraging our children to read. And you as parents, read with your children. Do group reading. Each person read maybe 2 lines. If they have children struggling to read, you read a line, they read a line, and so on. And then you could reach the paragraph, yeah? And then you go around the circle and so on. Very, very entertaining as well, if you have never done it and so on. That's part of my training in theater and so on, right? So I'm passing on something that maybe they could pick up. Right, Mr. Roberts? Yeah. Thank you, sir. With that, hey, we want to thank you for viewing Rise and Shine. Hey, we've come to the end of the show. You will join D-Jam and I inside Cup of Tea.